一筋縄じゃいかないか。
キサ深いけど内臓出てね
抑えててね。
動けね
ごめんね、虎杖君。
The strongest sorcerer, second only to Gojo Satoru, or better known as Yuta Okkotsu, has come under fire recently after accusations of not only associations with Jeffrey Epstein, but the allegations extend to him being a quote-unquote Rika merchant. On a more serious note, I've noticed that a lot of the slander surrounding Yuta does actually have a basis rooted in actual criticism of the character. I, very obviously, couldn't agree less with the sentiment that Yuta is a bad character. In fact, aside from Satoru Gojo, of course, he's probably my favorite character from Jujutsu Kaisen. Why is that though? Well, that's what this video is going to cover. Spoilers for the Jujutsu Kaisen manga are ahead. Before I even think about delving into the actual writing of the character, it's just scary, I know, I have to address the most obvious agenda on the planet when it comes to Yuta, and that's the idea that Yuta is a Rika merchant. It's the dumbest thing on earth. For a second, we'll ignore the fact that Rika is literally Yuta's curse technique and focus on the fact that he has showings that are on par with other special grade characters with nothing but his base kit. Yuta literally palms a granite blast, and that's a feat that Rika does later. Ryu notes that as crazy in and of itself. That's an insane durability feat without him having to use anything but his innate cursed energy reinforcement. Also, before Kuroishi popped out the most BS attack of all time, he was cooking that cockroach. Kuroishi is a special grade cursed spirit, and Yuta can one-shot him with his positive energy output alone. Outputting positive cursed energy through reverse curse technique is ultra rare in the universe too, and as far as I can remember, only Shoko and Sukuna can do that. Shoka's a specialist, so that makes sense, and Sukuna is Sukuna, so the skill at which Yuta is performing here is not to be scoffed at. Again though, Rika is literally Yuta's curse technique. He can't use copy without Rika being manifested, and she's essentially useful in the same way that Geto and Kenjaku's curse manipulation is, albeit she's stronger than anything any of them have ever put to use. Still, Yuta is literally just using cursed energy manipulation and a partial manifestation of Rika when he's not on his 5-minute timer, and he's still putting up feats that are on par with the likes of Maki, Hakari, and end of series Yuji. To be slightly fair, a lot of people bring up that Yuta feels like a fan-made OC. He's related to Gojo, has a super overpowered ability with copy, gets a Shikigami that is initially the strongest curse in the entire series, and he literally has the second highest documented cursed energy in the entire series, literally only behind Ryomen Sukuna himself. I do kind of get this since it's kind of funny when you think about it all, but I don't really take any issue with any of it. There are so many super broken characters in this series. By the end, most of the super strong characters are relative to Yuta or higher, so he's not really an anomaly of strength. I don't even think he's the strongest character besides Gojo or Sukuna either. That title is going to Kenjaku since somehow the guy has the only other open domain in this series besides Sukuna. Though, that's not the point for a lot of people. To some, Yuta's strength is different from others because he didn't really earn it. Kenjaku obviously had thousands of years to hone his strength. Maki literally had to have her sister die and then have another awakening against the strongest misogynist in history to fully grab hold of it, and Gojo literally had to die before he could learn RCT. And then there's Yuji who had to, you know. Yuta kinda sort of is just born with all these crazy hacks and coincidences, but I don't necessarily agree that it doesn't feel earned. I'm not even talking about JJK0, but rather just how his power is represented in the series itself. Yuta does actually have a lot of burden despite this power. After Gojo is sealed, he is on paper the strongest of the era, and now a bunch of responsibility is laying on his shoulders. He had to fake Itadori's death, is tasked with dealing with Sukuna if the time ever came for it, even though that just, it doesn't make sense. He also has to take on the responsibility of dealing with an entire colony of the Culling Games all on his own, and declares that he will be the one to kill Kenjaku, so Gojo won't have to do it. His power isn't really this one-button solution to all of his or anyone else's problems, so I don't find him having all that power annoying. If anything, the way that he maneuvers around it is what makes him super important in this series to me.
Yo, CeeLo killed this shit.
One of the major themes of JJK is the importance of youth. Gojo dedicates himself to teaching not because he really wants to teach, he's actually a pretty bad teacher, but he wants to protect the next generation of sorcerers from the establishment that wants them to do things a certain way. Events like hidden inventory be damned. Yuta, and Yuji, represent the pinnacle of the next generation of power. It's no mistake that he is the only teenager officially designated a special grade, with the rest all being well into adulthood. He is, to Jujutsu Society, the beginning of the new era. However, I think it's no mistake that he's only designated as such because Gojo saved his life from being ended at the hands of the same society. They never even wanted him in the first place. It is stated many times in the manga that a disregard for others and an overwhelming sense of self is what leads to power. Sukuna is the pinnacle of Jujutsu sorcery, and he considers others as just a way to pass time before he dies. Gojo, although not as explicitly disregarding of others, is shown to be incredibly isolated and found himself fulfilled in death by the fact that he died in battle, and when he first awoken, he essentially glossed over Riko's death. Maki's awakening is literally triggered by the slaughter of her own clan, and Hikari and Kashimo show what throwing away all conventions can do for one's strength. Yuta is different. He doesn't care to disregard everyone else, and he seems confused by the sentiment in the first place. He cannot begin to understand why Uro would ever reincarnate just for herself, and yet Yuta has the greatest power of his generation. He throws away the conventions of the old guard once more, and carves a new way for Jujutsu Society to progress. Yuta, at the end of the series, brings up a plan to take over Gojo's body to use against Sukuna if he were to lose. Sukuna notices this as throwing everything away for power as everyone else he finds notable essentially has, but I see it differently. Taking over Gojo's body is essentially just a further evolution of Yuta's different mindset. He does it while thinking of what Gojo has had to suffer all these years. He understands that barely anyone even acknowledges him as anything besides the strongest sorcerer. That's not what Gojo is to him, and so with the highest amount of respect he can possibly give, he takes on that role in order to fight for not only the world as a whole, not only his friends, but holding someone he cares about as close to his heart as possible. Yujo wasn't a disregard of Gojo, but it was the ultimate acknowledgement that his sensei could have ever hoped for. Yuta isn't a bum. He isn't a fraud. He is a great character representing one of the most important themes in the entire story of JJK. So the next time you're about to say he gets carried by Rika, just remember he can solo your favorite character in base with no katana, no RCT, and maybe even an arm missing. Alright, so I'm just gonna put the Osu on the screen and get to the point, I guess. This is not a video on Down the Rabbit Hole 1, or a video on it's not even an animation. It's a JJK video, which honestly I didn't even think I was gonna do. I was planning on doing another visual novel video, but my last video was recorded like 6 months or whatever. No, yeah, like 6 months before I actually released it, and I wanted to make something that was more timely this time, so this is what I went with. I do enjoy reading JJK, and the anime is airing right now, so yeah. Anyways, there will be something coming out that has to do with visual novels, but probably nothing that I've teased so far. But yeah, if you like this video, just leave it a like and subscribe, and also comment. I really like reading comments. That's probably one of my favorite things to do after these videos. And so yeah, bye.